taking place. And what I learned over 5 years doing is this. When someone that's not an African American says, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, in other words, what I'm saying is, it's more powerful when you do it than when I do it. It's this whole Frederick, sorry, this whole Frederick Douglass Republican message is more powerful when a white conservative does it than when a black person does it. Why is that the case? Well, what we know is this. By watching MSNBC, that white conservatives are racist. They have no redemptive bone in their body, always racist. Will always be racist. Racist, 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 racist. Just racist. Hate the poor, not sensitive to the poor. Republicans are racist. Isn't that what they say about us? Now, once you carefully study and show yourself approved, and you say you're a Frederick Douglass Republican, and what you're saying is, as a Frederick Douglass Republican, my values are identical to Frederick Douglass. I hold this man in high esteem. So if you say that to me, and I've been watching MSNBC, where most liberals get their news, especially the black community, the Latino community, why is this white person talking about Douglass? Now, most folks, like I said, they don't know the substance of Douglass, but they recognize the name. And so when you say I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, what is this white person talking about Douglass for? What were you talking about Douglass for? When that happens, that's your chance to take control of the narrative. But you got to carefully study and show yourself approved. You got to know what to say. That's when you get a chance to be an informer, an inspiration point in the conversation, not on the defense. That's how you start changing hearts and minds. What is this white person talking about? Why are you talking about Douglass? And what does Douglass have to do with the Republican Party? Now you got a chance to engage. You're framing the discussion, the debate. Karl Rove has it partially right with his airwave attack of political ads going through the airwaves. I call it a Tokyo Rose strategy. That's not how you change hearts and minds. That's not how you win the war. You got to have a powerful ground force in play, a ground force who know how to engage the enemy. That's been empowered, equipped, and trained, and know how to engage. They know how to share their values and trump the race card. Defeat all the propaganda attacks of the left. That's what we got to have. We got to have a ground force. We don't have that now. The RNC strategy is not working. I know personally it's not working. The RNC has hired various folks to do outreach in various ethnic communities, one particular black community. They hired, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10, 12 folks. They call them engagement directors. And it's not working because they're calling me on the down low or behind the scenes asking us to help them with messaging. I said, I can't help you. I don't have time. Go back to your leadership and ask leadership to embrace Douglass totally. Here's what they're doing. They tell them, go into the NAACP meetings, go into the Urban League, and be visible. Be visible. And when you get a chance to go to the microphone, here's what you say. My name is K. Carl Smith, and let me tell you why I'm a Republican. Now that's what they're saying, but that's not what the folks are hearing. What people hear is this. My name is K. Carl Smith, and let me tell you why I'm a traitor and a sellout to my community. They're calling me and saying, K. Carl, we're being brutalized out here. We need Douglass. I say, go talk to Rice Priebus. Go talk to him. He's a leadership. We'll come help you if the leadership buys in. That ain't if you're waiting for the RNC cavalry to come, they ain't coming. We're the cavalry. We're the cavalry. They're not coming. And I don't think I want that cavalry to come anyway. Because they're going to mess it up. It's going to take us to fix it. That's why this whole Frederick Douglass thing is a grassroots initiative. The way we improve the RNC, the Republican Party, is from the bottom up, not from the top down. We got enough of top-down stuff. It ain't working. It got to be a bottom-up approach. So by sheer numbers, if the RNC don't wake up with this Frederick Douglass Republican message, they're going to be on the outside looking in because 60,000 people, and we were not even trying to recruit. We didn't know we were growing a movement. We had no idea. We just got getting emails coming. I said, we just started the movement, y'all. And the goal is by 2016 to have a movement consisting of 30 million members. Black, Latino, women, gay, doesn't matter. Why? It's all about liberty. It's about self-governance. Okay? So that's why Douglas is so important. So Frederick Douglass, it is an oxymoron that's powerful, because when you say that and people recognize that the two don't go together, they don't know, but they're being elevated from being a superficial observer to a critical thinker. Don't even realize it, because they're thinking Frederick Douglass Republican. They don't realize it. You're helping them become a critical thinker. And you got a chance to take control of the narrative. That's how we get it. Frederick Douglass, that oxymoron, that phrase. It's more powerful when you do it than when I do it. So the book, just to show you, tell you about the book is entitled Frederick Douglass Republican, The Movement to Reignite America's Passion for Liberty. It is not a dissertation on the political views of Douglass. It is a conservative action handbook. In that book, I take each of the 4 life empowering values. I take each of the 4, my brother and I painstakingly got our hands on everything we can read that Douglass wrote. Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies. Philip Fodder has a collection of Douglass's writings, about 900 pages, 6-size font. Douglass's writings. Yale University has something called the Douglass Papers, put together by Blassingame, 1,000 pages, 6-size font. Just Douglass's writings. 12 years of Douglass's writings was lost in a fire. Douglass wrote a lot. Douglass wrote more than Dr. King and the Apostle Paul put together. I put them out of writing. So what we did, we give you 5 quotes. What did Douglass say about the Constitution? The 5 things that Douglass said about respect for life, limited government, and personal responsibility. That gives you the information you need so you can engage. Let me give you an example. One of the things that the left teaches today in our colleges, I'm a graduate of historical black college. I was taught, and is still being taught, that the founding fathers gave us slavery in the Constitution, saying that blacks are 3/5 of a person. That is still being taught. In the book, there's a section called Douglass on the 3/5 clause. 1861, I believe, in March 1861, Douglass was in Glasgow, Scotland. Douglass is the one who gives clarity to the 3/5 clause. 1861. He said, wait a minute. Now, what you got to know about Douglass now, when Douglass first met William Lloyd Garrison, Douglass took on the opinion of the Garrisonians. Douglass himself also thought that the Constitution was a pro-slavery document, and he preached on that. He believed it himself, until he did one thing, very interesting. He did this. He read the Constitution for himself. Then he read the Founding Fathers' Convention on it against the Federalist Papers. Then Doug said, wait a minute. Constitution is not a pro-slavery document. It is an anti-slavery document. And the 3/5 clause, he said, oh, by the way, it has nothing to do about the personhood of a black person. But it was a compromise effort used by the northern free states upon the southern slave states. Douglass wrote about that in a speech, 1861. It's in the book. I want to quickly give you some idea why this whole legacy, the literary legacy of Douglass, is so important for those who don't have the workbook. On page 8, I got several quotes of Douglass on the Constitution. I want to read one of them to you, and let me know if this is does he sound like a moderate to you? I went somewhere, I suppose a guy must have been an established Republican. He said, the reason why the establishment don't like Douglass because he said Douglass was a moderate. I said, sir, what are you talking about? Does this sound like a moderate to you? Here's Douglass on the Constitution. He says this, and I quote, in conclusion, let me say, all I ask of the American people is that they live up to the Constitution, adopt its principles, abide its spirit, and enforce its provisions. When this is done, the wounds of my bleeding people will be healed. The chains will no longer rust on their ankles, and their backs will no longer be torn by the bloody lash. And liberty, the glorious birthright of our common humanity, will become the inheritance of all the inhabitants of this highly favored country. That's Douglas. It sounds like Reagan. That's a former slave talk. The left don't have an answer for this. The left don't have an answer for this. That's why it is crucial. If we're serious about defending liberty, defending the Constitution, want to bring more diversity to the conservative movement, the Republican Party, Frederick Douglass must be an integral part, everyday part of the message. If not, we're doomed for failure because we have no way to trump the race card. We have no way to refute their lies about rewriting history. Douglass does that. We have no way to defeat the propaganda machine of the left. Douglass trumps the race card. He defeats the class warfare attacks. You know about Douglass and women in terms of how Douglass was respected by women. Because back in 1848, the first ever women's rights convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York. 1848, Susan B. Anthony was there. Sojourner Truth was there. 200 women were there. 32 men also attended, but only one man was invited to speak. Frederick Douglass. He was affectionately referred to as a women's rights man, because the women, leaders of the women's suffrage movement, also worked with Douglass in the anti-slavery movement. They were abolitionists. Douglass is so key. So Douglass's story, the truth of his writings, how they refute the left, that's what changes things. Here's the formula for success when it comes to this Frederick Douglass piece. Information plus inspiration equals involvement. Information plus inspiration equals involvement. If you can inform someone about the truth and inspire them with it, they'll get involved in your campaign. They'll support your candidate. They get on fire. Information, that's the writings of Douglass. Inspiration, that's the life of Douglass. You put those two together, and most folks, nobody can out-victimize them, they get involved. Information plus inspiration equals involvement. It worked on my parents. If you can inspire your parents, you can inspire anybody. Anybody. I mean, anybody. That's the message I bring to you. So, this Frederick Douglass Republican piece, it is not exclusive. It is inclusive. It's not based on color, it's based on the values. It's based on values. We want to inspire people to vote their values. Don't care if you're a Democrat. You're going to be a Democrat, that's fine. See, what Republicans don't realize, take that argument off the table. Somebody wants to be a Democrat, fine. Or you vote your values. Fine, be a Democrat. Or you vote your values. That's what happened to my mom. That's why you don't have to be a Republican, but do you have Frederick Douglass' perspective? I didn't have to tell her where to land politically. She realized on her own that the Republican Party best exemplifies her values. I didn't have to tell her that. That's a soul-searching thing people got to do. We want to inspire, not recruit. Inspire folks to vote their values. Because this is the center-right nation. Most folks don't agree with this. So that's the book. The companion guide comes with the book. The companion guide, I'm going to say this because I'm going to give you my testimony, but I'm not here to give slight attention to somebody else's religious practice. I mean, what you worship is what you worship. But I'm going to give you my testimony. When God had set me down and I wrote this companion guide that comes with the book, He set me down and I studied the ministry of Jesus Christ. When you study Christ's ministry, do you recall how the scribes and the Pharisees tried to trap him, hoping that he would say something damaging so they could accuse him, attack him? That's what the communist liberal left, I think that's bad, that's what the communist socialist left do to us as conservatives, try to trap us, hoping that we say something damaging so they can call us a racist, so they can call us a sellout, so they can demonize us, so they can discredit us. And what's happening, by them attacking us every day, our reputation has been destroyed. So when you get out here and try to engage, and you say you're Republican this or conservative that, the wall goes up. The wall is up. It doesn't matter what the facts are, the truth, and the evidence. It doesn't matter what those are. The wall is up. How do you stop the wall from going up? How do you tear it down? It's through Frederick Douglass. So here's an example. I mentioned to you earlier. You are here engaging. Now, I can say this. I'm not saying you don't use the word conservative. I'm not saying that at all, like Andy Griffith would say. What I'm saying is, you can use it, but you're not going to have a pleasant experience after you use it, if you're out here trying to engage. K. Carl, are you a conservative? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And I believe in the four life and power and values of Frederick Douglass. And like the Christ did, sometimes he will, to that question, he will give a question. And that's what we have to do. Somebody asks you, a conservative? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. I believe in the four life and power and values. Ask them, do you share the values of Douglass? Most Americans will say yes. And you say, guess what? That makes you a conservative, or better still, that makes you a Frederick Douglass Republican, and that's the hook. That's the hook. Frederick Douglass Republican. That oxymoron is powerful. I did not come up with this. I'm here to tell you, I feel like that I have won the lottery. Out of 300 million people plus in this country, God picked me out and gave me this message to deliver. That's what I'm doing. I did not come up with this. I didn't sit in my house and Google this thing, doodle this thing out. God revealed this to me over a period of time. And this is what you have in front of you. You are here engaging. Somebody asks you, are you a Republican? Well, what'd you say before you met me? If you say yes, you just lost. The wall is up. Matter of fact, the attack is on. They want to attack. Here's how you stop the attack. K. Carr, you're a Republican. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And there's a difference between the two. The Republican Party does not resemble the party of Frederick Douglass. And we got to help the Republican Party to recapture its political distinction, get it back to where it was at the time of Douglass, when it was a defender of the Constitution, and it made the plight of the poor a legislative priority. Not in terms of entitlements for a lifetime, but to elevate the poor to become employees and entrepreneurs. You know what? We need people in both parties from a Frederick Douglass perspective. 3 weeks ago, my brother gave a copy of the book to a preacher friend of his in Alabama. He was so inspired by the message. He shared with other 25 black pastors. They called us 2 weeks ago. They want to be trained in the Frederick Douglass Republican message. They want to be trained. Here's why. Here's why. If you have a black congregation, and we're losing the propaganda, right? We're losing the battle. You can't go to your congregants and start talking about conservative this and conservative that. They think you lost your mind. They're going to leave. So I said, K. Carl, how do we advance our conservative values without using the word conservative? Well, let's call them life empowering values. And it's Frederick Douglass Republican. Got a call. I'm going to Milwaukee Thursday. I leave here Wednesday. I speak tomorrow night. I drive back Birmingham Wednesday. Fly out Thursday morning, go to Milwaukee. 30 black pastors in Milwaukee want to be trained in Frederick Douglass Republican message. 30. I didn't call them. They called us. Folks want to be informed. Folks want to be informed. Sharon Angle. Have you heard the Sharon Angle testimony? I'm going to give it to you again. Sharon Angle's out of the bottom. Remember, Sharon Angle ran against Harry Reid for the Senate seat a few years ago. I met Sharon Angle last summer. Shared the Frederick Douglass Republican message with her. She bought a book. She called me one day, said, K. Carl, I have a testimony. The Frederick Douglass Republican methodology works. I said, what's your testimony, Sharon? She said, K. Carl, I was in the Reno airport. I was scheduled to fly to Atlanta to meet you there. I was supposed to be in Atlanta. I couldn't make that speaking event either, so I sent my brother. So I didn't see it. So she said, when she was in the airport, 3 women, black women, walked up to Sharon. They recognized her, Sharon Angle. And they said to Mrs. Angle, where are your travels taking you this time? Sharon Angle said, I'm going to try this Frederick Douglass Republican thing out that K. Carl talked to me about. And she said, I'm traveling to Atlanta to meet up with a Frederick Douglass Republican friend of mine. The 3 black women looked at Sharon and said, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was a Republican? Sharon said, yes, he was a Republican, and he believed in 4 life empowering values, respect for the Constitution, respect for life. He believed in limited government, and he believed in personal responsibility. The 3 black women, Sharon said, looked at her and said, can you come to our church and share that message? So now Sharon got to go to a black church to share the message. This is where the RNC has it wrong. The RNC is trying to invite themselves into the black community. You don't go until you get invited. And the reason why you have invited, you don't have a message. You don't have a message. That's why you've been invited. Sharon was invited. Sharon was so empowered, so excited that this white woman has had a chance to gauge somebody of a different ethnicity without the fear of being called a racist, sharing her conservative values through her PAC. Sharon was so excited that through her PAC she bought 10,000 copies of my book so we can keep the message going. That's how excited and powerful she did for her. And it does the same for you. The question is this: how much do you love your children and your grandchildren? How much do you love your nieces and your nephews? How much do you love this country? I say that because you got to get out the closet. You got to get out the conservative closet and get into the arena of political dialogue and exchange without the fear of somebody calling you a racist. Now, when you say you're afraid of Doug's Republicans, that don't mean you're not going to be attacked. Oh, they're going to attack, but you know how to come back. And you can squash it. Here's what I learned. I mentioned the 3 things you got to say when you say Frederick Doug's Republican. The second thing is this: never, ever, when you are here engaging, never, ever allow anybody to call you Republican alone, or conservative alone, or Tea Party alone. Those are attack words. They will attack. I know. I was good at it. I grew up in a Democrat household. Honestly speaking, most of my relatives were Republicans up until 64. Most of my family members were Republicans until 64. Of course, I didn't know anything about that, them being Republicans. I just knew I grew up in a Democrat family. 64, you know, that's all I knew. Matter of fact, I didn't know they were Republicans until like 5 years ago when I was talking to my dad. I thought you knew. No, you didn't tell me that kind of thing. So, you got to understand those are attack words. Never, ever. When it comes to local level engagement, you are here. It's okay in here. You understand? But out there, it's not okay. They will attack. They must attack. They don't stand for truth. They got to attack. They got to keep control of the narrative. If they lose control of the narrative, it's over with for the left. They're going to go back to France. They're gone. They're out of here. And I see. Go back to France or jump out of windows. I prefer both. Okay? They don't have an answer for this. So I was on a panel one time. Again, I wasn't on a panel in a Tea Party meeting. I was out at a black college. And the 3 guys on the panel, the 4th guy, liberal here, Democrat here, Democrat here. We got a Republican, conservative, K. Carl Smith. Sir, call me by my name. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. That's my political identity. He kept on going, conservative, Republican. No, sir, call me by my name. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. You did not name my children. You're not going to name me. Call me by my name. I made him call me Frederick Douglass Republican. The whole night. The crowd loved the message. We're listening now instead of attacking. You saw Ben Carson on The View. Dr. Ben Carson was on The View not too long ago. And I sat down and broke the film down. They try to trap him. If you notice now, you go back and watch it, they're talking about his speech he gave at the prayer breakfast. The lady sitting there to his left, the black female, she says to Dr. Carson, well, you gave a conservative message. Dr. Carson said, I don't think it was conservative at all. She tried to label him with the word conservative so they can attack. Dr. Carson said, I don't think he was conservative at all. I was just telling the truth. She backed down. They want to attack. Don't you forget that. They want to attack. That's why it's a demonic strategy. It's a demonic technique. I'm not saying the rank and file is doing it. I'm talking about the leadership of the Democrat Party. And we got problems with the leadership of the Republican Party too. The Republican Party is perfect. Okay? Makes sense? You think you can do something like this? You got to practice though. When you study Christ's ministry, whenever he responded to a challenge, he never said yes or no to a challenge. He never did. He said, it is written, or he said, I tell you the truth, which means that he knew his history. He knew it. We don't know our history like that. We got to carefully study to show ourselves approved, right? We got to carefully study. You can't be an empty suitor and do this. You can't say, okay, I'm a politician. I need to get some black votes. I'm going to be a friend of the Dutch public. You'll be discovered quickly, and I'll help discover you. If you come up like that. This is serious stuff because it's a game changer. But you got to be serious about this. You got to put some time into it. You don't have to sit down and study Douglas. That's why my brother and I wrote the book and gave you a cliff notes on Douglas. Okay? We gave you a cliff notes on Douglas, and it's not an intimidating read by looking at the book. And we wrote it on a level that homeschoolers can use and understand. It's powerful. It works. We got to be on offense all the time as conservatives. We should be on offense all the time. This allows us to do that. The President Doug's Republican piece. Make sense? Yes. Y'all such a great class. The role play piece, here's how you role play this thing. We're not going to do it tonight, but here's what you do. If you don't have the book and the companion guide, you're at a disadvantage. But in the companion guide, it's broken down by 12 questions. And in the companion guide, identify what the challenge is, give you history on the challenge, and here's how you respond to it. Practice the response. You got to make it personal for yourself. Practice it. But you understand the elements that are there. The three things you got to say when you say Republican, President Doug's Republican. Okay? Makes sense? I think, Judy, at this time, let's do a quick Q&A. Let's do a Q&A. I think I hit all the major points that I want to cover. And like I said, this is not simple. This is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. You grasp this. I'm not teaching you conservative values. You already know that. I'm just giving you how to deliver it. That's all this is. That's all this is. Somebody had a sheet of paper on the table. It had 2 questions on it. I think I can remember one of them. I can't remember the second one. How do you respond to someone that says that the Dixiecrats joined the Republican Party? Strom Thurmond. Was that the question, somebody? Something like that? That is a challenge. Matter of fact, that's one of the challenges in the book. I put it in there. That the Republican Party today is a Democrat Party of old. What they're saying is this, that because of party realignment, when Goldwater received the nomination, when black folks left the Republican Party en masse, that's when the southern states became red overnight. Okay? The southern states became red overnight when that happened. Matter of fact, I read somewhere that, you know Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond was a devout racist. You ought to see some of the video stuff on YouTube. He had a change of heart later on, but he said some stolen stuff being captured by the cameras. Goldwater recruited him to the Republican Party. Goldwater recruited Thurmond to the Republican Party. So now you got some of these Dixiecrats in the Republican Party. Here's how you respond to that. Majority of the Dixiecrats stayed Democrats, to include Al Gore's daddy, Robert Byrd. Here's how you respond to that. And it's this way. Racism has no political face. Wow. There's racism in the Republican Party? Yes. Democrat Party? Yes. Tea Party? I never experienced it, but I will not be naive to think it's not there. Because you may have 1 or 2 misfits to give the whole organization a bad name. Racism has no political face. The biggest racists I have ever witnessed in my life, I grew up in Alabama, are blacks and how blacks treat each other. I was at Alabama A&M. There's a sorority that has something called the brown paper bag test, meaning that you could not be a member of a particular sorority if your skin tone was darker than a brown grocery store paper bag. You can't get more racist than that. The response is racism has no political face. Here's how you deal with that. Because it came to me on the show one time. I said, sir, racism has no political face. And you know racism exists. You know it exists. You identify. Question is this, sir. Instead of you finger pointing and insulting and instigating, you know it exists. What are you doing to make a difference? What are you doing to make a difference? If you're not doing anything, shut up. Because you're the problem. That's how you shut it down. The founding fathers, this whole thing about the founding fathers and this paradox. How could these men with a liberty conscience write this racist document? Here's how you answer that. And you answer it this way. And it's not in the companion guide. God gave me this later on. God uses imperfect people to write noble documents. God uses imperfect people to write noble documents. Moses was not perfect. He was a murderer. And God inspired him to write the first 5 books of the Old Testament. King David had his issues with Bathsheba. And God inspired him to write the book of Psalms. The Apostle Paul persecuted the Christians. God inspired him to write the majority of the New Testament. Some of the founding fathers owned slaves. And when he wrote the Constitution, it does not read, we the white people, it reads, we the people. Yeah. God uses noble men, noble people to write noble documents. That's how you answer that. Everybody got issues, but God can still use you, the point. And he used the founding fathers in the midst of their issues. He did it for Moses, King David, the Apostle Paul, the founding fathers. That shuts them up. When you study the companion guide, the reason why the response is so powerful, in every response I give, I'm standing behind Jehovah, God, or Douglas. Or do you support Barack Obama? See, that's the silver bullet. When they can't get you on anything else, do you support the president? I support President Obama when I think he's right. But I'm not going to spit in my God's face and support him when I think he's wrong. There's nothing you can do to make me do what I used to do. That's how you deal with that. I want to offer this to you too. The Republicans, conservatives, don't know how to critique Obama. What's happening when they critique Obama, you end up getting sympathy votes for Obama. Here's how you critique Obama. The way you critique Obama is the way that Christ critiqued the 7 churches. He said something positive, then he said there's something you got to work on. So with Obama, you got to find something positive. And I'm here to tell you, I can't think of anything administration about that. I just can't. But here's some things about him that's positive. He has 2 great daughters, 2 nice daughters. He's the first person of color to occupy the highest office in the land. I recognize that. I celebrate that. But I'm not going to let that celebration stop me from giving political critique and start looking for political substance. Amen. How are your policies affecting the poor? How are your policies and legislation in line with the Constitution? You can't stay stuck on historical celebration. You got to start looking for political substance. And critique is a form of love. When Lincoln became president, his first inaugural address, Lincoln supported slavery in the South. And he supported the future of the slave clause. Douglas did not give up on Lincoln. He agitated Lincoln, put pressure on Lincoln. Lincoln started improving as a leader and as a statesman because he was open-minded. Barack Obama, I don't care how much pressure you put on him, how much agitation, he ain't going to change because he's an ideologue. He don't care how much misery, how much poverty he's causing. It's the end game for him, and the end game is communism. So that's a little bit different. But you still got to critique him. Find something positive about his. Hey, Carl, we got Patrick that's called in. He's a staunch liberal Democrat. He's going to attack you. I said, okay, let's go back on the air. Get back on the air. Patrick comes online. Sir, I respect you. I said, how you doing, Patrick? I respect you, sir. But I got a question for you. He said, why people want to attack the president? Give him a chance. I said, wait a minute now. What you call attack, I may call it critique. I said, how do you respond when he defunded the historical black colleges by $72 million. You call that attack? He said, you got a point there, brother. That's how you deal with it. You deal with it based on practicality. That's all you have to do. It's common sense. Douglas was just practical. That's why he is so important. That's why we got to elevate this legacy of this man, get into his writings, and start informing people, start inspiring people. Then you're gonna realize how folks gonna have a change of heart. They're gonna become part of this movement, the conservative movement. It's gonna become more diverse. We don't need to compromise our principles. That's not the answer. You don't compromise and you don't pander. You don't pander on the same-sex marriage issue. Here's the thing about same-sex marriage. I think we have our God-given rights of free will. If you want to live that lifestyle, that's fine. I don't support it, but you want to live that lifestyle, that's fine. I don't need to know who's in your bedroom unless it's my wife. That's the only time I need to know something. But here's where I draw the line. No man, no president, no government has the authority to take God's divine definition of marriage and change it in order to please your constituents. That's where I draw the line. And the reason why you want to change it, because you want to remove the shame and the guilt. That's where I have a problem. Somebody living like that, I don't even know you kissing somebody in front of Chick-fil-A. I don't even know if you got to be kissing somebody in front of Chick-fil-A. Remember they wanted to do that? Get in front of Chick-fil-A and kiss. When it was, you remember that? Y'all remember that? Yeah. This makes sense to you? The answer is Douglas. There's no other answer. Before there was Reagan, there was Douglas. Before there was the Republican Party, there was Douglas. And because of Douglas, there was a successful Lincoln. That's the legacy that got to be elevated. Dr. King is not the father of the civil rights movement. He is the son. The father is Frederick Douglass. That's the story that got to be told. And black folks, Latinos, matter of fact, we get the book translated to Spanish, be done probably about another month. But that's how you change hearts and minds. I cannot tell you all the testimonies I received from how, I'll give you an example. My brother got a phone call just last week. This guy, and I think it's John Hilliard, I think his name is John Hilliard, a former Alabama state Democrat senator, state senator, read the book 2 weeks ago. Went on YouTube, saw all the videos my brother and I did. Called my brother last Wednesday. He said, I'm not a Democrat, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. He read the book, he said, this is the answer to the race relation problems of this country. The answer is Douglas. This is the answer to save this nation. You heard what the this person is the current executive, upper level executive within WCP, national level. Read the book. Got in contact with my brothers. The comment was, if the message in y'all's book gets on a national level, this is 2011, it said President Obama is history and the Democrat Party is toast. The question is, we got to grow this army. And it's going to be the conservative choir has to do it, because what we're doing right now, I'm traveling the country, I'm doing sessions like this because I am preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to the choir tonight. The choir must be empowered. The choir must be trained. And the choir needs a new song to sing. The choir got to be empowered, equipped, and trained how to go out and get new choir members. Diversify this thing. And they need a new song to sing because the song to sing is not working. And the song is the Frederick Douglass Republican melody, or the Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger melody. Can't do it without Douglass. I'll take any challenges on that. Bring me anybody. Nobody brings to the table what Douglass brings. Nobody. That's my message to you. The question is, are you willing to put this thing to practice? Don't send me any messages that, okay, Carl, I haven't tried this thing yet. I don't know if it works. I don't think it's going to work. But you haven't tried. How do you know if it works? Well, don't wait 2 or 3 years from now when you're on your rocking chair on the front porch and your grandchild and granddaughter asks you, well, Dad, what'd you do for the fight of liberty? And you respond to them like Patton responded, well, I shoveled horse dog in Louisiana. So, no, just get this game. We will win. We will win. But now we have a way how we can be on offense all the time and defeat the propaganda test. That's what this is all about. And it works. You just got to do it. And that's what I share with you tonight. A message of healing for this nation, to bring racial healing to this country, to broaden the base of the conservative movement, and get this country back on track in our lifetime. In our lifetime. If we had 10% of the money Carl Road would, we could do this thing. But question, you got to do it. You have to do this. You can't sit back and say, okay, when is the right time? Now is the right time. What did Reagan say? If not now, when? If not you, who? You. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for inviting me.